So in the last video, I investigated the science behind one of PlayStation 2's iconic character duos, investigating Jak and Daxter's Blue Eco and comparing it to the Tesla coil, to see how wireless electricity can work in the real world. Today, we're going back a generation, to take a look at the science behind one of the many platforming icons of the original PlayStation era. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of The Science Of, the show where I take a look at the science behind your favourite game shows and more. Today, we're taking a look at one of PlayStation's many platforming mascots between 1994 and 2006, Spyro the Dragon. The Spyro series was the first successful franchise developed by Insomniac Games, with the first game, Spyro the Dragon, being released all the way back in 1998. Insomniac of course have come a long way since they first started developing games in the 1990s, now known for their Spider-Man franchise on the PS4 and 5. But did you know? While Spyro the Dragon is best known for sharing vocal cords with SpongeBob himself, Tom Kenny, who voiced the Purple Dragon since 1999, SpongeBob's actually had a wide range of other voice actors over the years, including Frodo Baggins himself, Elijah Wood in the Legend of Spyro series, and Spectacular Spider-Man Josh Keaton in the Skylanders series. On his journey, Spyro and friends make their way around a wide range of colourful worlds, helping out their cast of colourful characters and collecting gems in order to pay a greedy banker bear, typical 90s flair. In order to face the many enemies and sheep roaming around a dragon realm, Spyro utilises a lot of natural abilities. The most useful of these is Spyro's ability to charge at enemies using his long horns to pierce their backsides. However, with some enemies, a spiky horn in the backside won't work. For example, if the enemy has any significant armour, Spyro's horns just won't cut it. And to get around this, Spyro can use the dragon's natural flamethrower to make roast out of a wide variety of Gnorcs and Rhinocs that infest the many worlds you visit. But the Spyro franchise isn't all fighting and burning sheep to a crispy lamb shank. The Spyro franchise features a whole lot of platforming, and Spyro, as a dragon, has some little wings to help him get around. But if you're expecting to be flying all over the place, you would be a little bit disappointed. As a tiny young dragon, Spyro is unable to fly around the numerous locales found in the original PS1 games. But what he can do is glide around gently and perform a little flutter to get some extra height for those hard to reach ledges. Now Spyro can also gain some height with the help of some in-game magic, but we're not interested in fairies and folklore here on the Science Of. We're interested in the science behind this little purple dragon's gliding. And immediately it's not looking great for Spyro, as this dragon has some pretty tiny wings compared to the size of his body. Would it be possible for him to glide around without just plummeting to the ground in a pile of purple scales? To see if Spyro would be able to glide or fly, we'll be calculating his wing loading. Wing loading is a measurement that joins the mass of a bird to its total wing area. If a bird has a large body with small wings, then it will have a high wing loading, and vice versa for birds with large wings and small bodies. Wings generate lift due to the flow of air over the wing's surface. Larger wings can move more air, so birds with larger wing area relative to its mass will produce more lift at any given speed. When a bird is too heavy for its wings, like the kiwi, its wing loading will be significantly higher. So before we can measure how big Spyro's wings are, we need to measure Spyro's height for some in-game measurements. To do this, we'll be using the classic Spyro the Dragon model found throughout the PS1 games, and then comparing it to in-game models to see just how tall Spyro could be. According to Spyro Wiki, our classic Spyro is 1.3 meters tall, so pretty titchy as far as dragons go. But I can't see a source for this measurement, so instead, we can do a measurement based on a fixed density found throughout all of the games. We could compare Spyro's height to Hunter, who as a cheetah should be around 1.4 meters standing on his hind legs. But from every classic and modern Spyro appearance, we can see that Spyro is no way near the same height as Hunter. So how about we use something else found throughout all Spyro games? Sheep. Throughout the entire Spyro franchise, whenever your little playable dragon is feeling a little low, you can burn or charge into a woolly bully and take the mutton to refill your health. These domestic sheep have a very distinctive fluffy white wool and black bodies, which suggests that they could be none other than, well, in all honesty, many different breeds of domestic sheep, but I'll go for either the Suffolk sheep or the incredibly fluffy Valais Blacknose found in Switzerland. If we assume that the sheep in game are some very fluffy Suffolk sheep, and that the sheep we see throughout the Spyro franchise are between 80 and 74 centimeters tall, then that would make Spyro around 0.9 or 1 meters tall including horns. This actually makes some sense, given that even little kids are towering over Spyro in levels like the fireworks factory. Now that we have an idea as to how tall Spyro is, we can then work out the surface area of each wing. To do this, we can take an in-game measurement of Spyro's height, and then compare it to the measurements of his wings whilst gliding. By doing this, I got a very rough estimate of the wings being 30 cm long and 57 cm wide, giving them a very rough surface area of 0.171 meters squared per wing and a total of 0.242 meters squared. Now, if we were to say that Spyro's weight was somewhere in the lower region of a mass range for a Suffolk ram, you would get a weight of around 113 kilograms without wool. This would mean that the wing loading for our little dragon would be 466 kilograms per meter squared. But what does this mean for Spyro's gliding potential? Well, typically, birds will have wing loading between 1 and 20 kilograms per meter squared, and the maximum wing load before a bird is physically unable to fly is around 25 kilograms per meter squared, so it's not looking great for Spyro. But who knows, a jumbo jet can fly around with wing loads of around 700 kilograms per meter squared, so not all hope is lost. We just need to do another quick calculation. From Spyro's mass, we know that in order to glide, he will be fighting against around 1108 newtons of gravitational force. Now, in order to calculate the lift force, we need to know the lift coefficient for Spyro's wings, the surface area, which we've already calculated, the density of air, which is 1.225 kilograms per meter cubed, and the flow speed at which Spyro is gliding at. Now, many times before, I've used this Glenn Research Center airfoil simulation, which gives a basic idea for the lift and drag coefficients of different wing shapes. In the case of Spyro's wings, you've got a curve at the front, but the rest is pretty much flat. Spyro doesn't seem to angle his wings too much, but they do seem to angle upwards a little bit, so let's give the benefit of the doubt and say that Spyro's wings are angled at around 3.5 degrees. This simulation gives us a lift coefficient of 0.54. From here, there are two directions we can go in. On one hand, we can calculate the speed that Spyro glides in game, and then use that to see whether the resultant lift force is sufficient to support Spyro's weight, or we can take the much easier route, rearrange the equation to make flow speed the subject, and then see how fast Spyro would need to fly in order to gently glide to the ground, instead of plummeting like one of Sergeant Bird's bombs. Okay, so rearranging the lift equation for flow speed, we find that if Spyro were to have a lift force of 1090 newtons, he would have to be flying at a speed of 160 meters per second. So pretty instantly, we can see that Spyro's not moving anywhere near fast enough to descend safely using his tiny wings. In fact, I doubt that even with the Super Glide power-up, that Spyro would be moving anywhere near the required speeds, and Spyro's little wings should result in a little Crash Bandicoot style death screen every time he tries to cross a ravine. So there we go. Kind of unsurprisingly, Spyro won't be gliding very far on his tiny wings, no matter how much magical wind is pushing him into the air. But Spyro's lack of lift aside, the greatest weakness for Spyro's gliding ability is the tiny amount of bone and muscle joining Spyro's wings to his body. Such a large mass being supported by such small regions of connective tissue would mean that even if Spyro were to flap his wings like a hummingbird, he'd be in far too much pain to keep it up for any prolonged amount of time. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to help combat the ever-changing and frustrating YouTube algorithm, then make sure you share the video to help my channel grow. If you have any scientific subjects or topics that you'd like to see me cover in the future, then please tell me in the comments down below. As well as that, follow me on Twitter to get updates on the latest science of videos, and join my Discord for chats about science, gaming and more. But until then, this has been the Science of Spyro the Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for game-based content, then you can join me over on Twitch, where I live stream 3 times a week playing all manner of games suggested by the community. Or if you want to support the channel even further, then you could also